Hello, all. For this lecture, we're going to talk about distribution strategy. So there is a slide deck for this in Canvas. So what we want to look at is two fundamental distribution strategies: direct shipment and then with an intermediate inventory at storage points. Also, we're going to look at two control approaches: a centralized versus a decentralized control. And then the flow of goods. Are we looking at a cross stock? Are we looking at a just-in-time inventory or flow through? Or are we looking at transshipment? And then risk pooling. So reducing demand variability and reducing safety stock. So direct shipment strategies. You have the advantage of you're avoiding a distribution center. You're eliminating that layer of cost. You do have shorter lead times. Your customers are happier about it, and there's a simplified flow. However, transportation costs are higher because you're often doing less than a truckload. A pallet that's on a truck versus the whole truck itself, or even you're using carriers such as FedEx or UPS to do such last mile shipment. There's no risk pooling benefits, and you could have a production and demand mismatch. It really could make you have to carry more inventory to meet this model. So oftentimes a powerful retailer could mandate direct shipments. So Amazon, for example, or it could be that it's a perishable or, like a cyclical item like fashion. So when we start to look at, intermediate inventory, so there are lower transportation costs, and this is the model where, Walmart or Amazon have these big distribution hubs because you're sending in full truckloads and then it's getting dispersed onto smaller trucks. You have proximity to your trading partners because of these distribution centers, and you can pool your risk to give yourself some insurance against a myriad of issues. You do have the disadvantages of some higher operating costs because distribution centers are big, they're expensive, they employ a lot of people. And with those big distribution center buildings, you have very high inventory investment because you got to fill them with stuff to ship. And they can be more complex to manage. So, when we think about this is going to be your traditional warehouses. There's going to be cross-docking. There's going to be, you bring one truck in, you break it down, and that one truck goes on 8 different trucks with stuff from 8 other different trucks. And then you see this one go from manufacturer to distribution to the store or the customer. So, intermediate inventory. So, this you're going to have storage point strategy. So, are you going to have a traditional warehouse, which is where the distribution center is going to hold your stock? It's going to ship to your customers, and by customers we mean your stores, or even to customers, I guess. And this could need a Kanban process. The cross-docking strategy, the distribution center is going to serve as a transfer point. So no inventory is held at these transfer points, but it just passes through and gets broken down and put on new trucks. And then you could have a distribution center that is a centralized pooling location. So you have managers that ship to one distribution center that then distributes to other distribution centers, which then go to your stores. So how does cross-docking work? So a distribution center will coordinate inventory flow, so inbound inventory, but it's also your outbound flow. So they're really coordinating the flow of your goods into your facility, getting broken down, and then going out of your facility. The distribution center is going to receive it. They're going to sort it. They're going to segregate it or separate it into where it's going to go. So, for example, distribution center could have a truck from Dole come in with fruit. That whole semi-load of canned fruit is not going to one Walmart. However, it could get broken down and put on 8 trucks that are going to go to 8 different Walmarts. So then you have another truck that comes in that is chips. It gets broken up. You have another truck that could be fitness equipment, another truck that could be motor oil, another truck that could be health and beauty products. So that's a little bit how cross-docking is going to work. It can be difficult and costly to implement, but you can really reduce your inventory and you can maximize the cost of transportation and really make it work for you and shorten your lead times. So there's also going to be warehouse replenishment. So this is going to be part of your purchasing policy. Go back to chapter 2. You're going to want to continuously review this. Make sure that you have, that you're understanding the variables in your order timing. Making sure that you understand your fixed order quantity. And then understanding that you need to do that periodic review to make sure that you're really keeping this up. When inventory falls below that predetermined amount, that's when you order and you replenish the stock in your warehouse. So centralized pooling, talked about that a little bit already. That is when manufacturers ship into one location, that breaks it out. So it's a little bit like cross stocking, but there is inventory. So when we look at this decentralized versus centralized management, the decentralized system, we're buying and stocking based on decisions that are made locally. The goal is the local organization's goals, whereas in the centralized system, it's a network wide. We're buying and stocking centrally, nationally. There is a risk of not leveraging a big network for economies of scale. You're not really being competitive in the supply market. However, you can really customize to your local market needs. So I would compare this similar to like a franchise. So Home Depot and Lowe's are going to be this centralized model. They're going to tell their stores what to stock. They're going to do the ordering. They're going to drive all this for the store. Whereas if you ever go to a Ace Hardware or a Do It Best Hardware, they are franchised hardware stores. And while they have access to purchase through Do It Best and through Ace, they can also make some decisions because they own that local store and they can do what fits that local market. The way I like to look at it is, you may have a Do It Best or an Ace in a college town and a Home Depot in a college town. And Home Depot is just going to stock certain things. They're going to have this centralized order management model. But the Ace Hardware could know homecomings in 3 weeks. We're going to put lawn chairs. We're going to have a lot of lawn chairs, and we're going to sell lawn chairs at a discount because they're going to want them at the tailgating. So that's a little bit of kind of trying to make centralized versus decentralized, I guess, a little more understandable. So cost center versus profit center. A cost center that's the department within the company that does not contribute directly to the profits. So procurement is a cost center. Profit center is sales. So when we're looking at distribution strategies, some things to consider. Safety stock, so lower safety stock levels often happen with centralized facilities. We have lower overhead with centralized facilities. You're able to spread it out across the centralized the network that a centralized organization feeds. You're getting to use economies of scale to get better prices. So you have lower inventory value in relation to how it's turning. You can often have shorter lead times based on economies of scale negotiating. You're having a higher utilization rate of your risk pooling, and your shipping times are better with that local decentralized network. So there is the chance that you could have a hybrid centralized and decentralized model. So that's kind of almost how franchises would work. There's a lot of benefits from both approaches. So I would encourage you to go in and read a little bit more and really kind of make your determination. Risk pooling, it's when we look at high local variation, low combined variation, and this is where we can split up that coefficient of variation between warehouses. And you can use multiple warehouses that are within servicing distance of a store to offset that risk. So, A centralized inventory significantly reduces safety stock because you're combining the monthly variations and they're canceling out, and it gives a smoother demand. The greater the difference between the coefficient variation and you know separate versus combined, there's just so much more benefit for it. So risk pooling. What we learn is that the standard deviation of local divided by the average demand of local, and then we have the standard deviation combined divided by the average demand combined. And that's how you determine your coefficient of variation. So that big difference, when we look at this, it's beneficial to combine inventory in a central stocking location. You reduce your safety stock. You still have the same demand, but you reduce your safety stock. Centralizing inventory will yield a lower coefficient variation. So local and combined coefficients can both be high and similar. And that would be there's no benefit in centralization. However, if you have a low and combined coefficients, if they can both be low and similar, that's not a benefit to centralization. And even if one local is different from all the others, there is some benefit. In closing, direct shipments versus intermediate, there's going to be benefits and risk. You look through them and figure out what best suits your model. How do you approach your customers? What type of product are you selling? And then you can build your network design. And you could even look at from there, do I want to be centralized? Do I want to be decentralized? Do I want to use a hybrid? How are the different cost centers and profit centers playing into this? And how do we want to manage our risk? Do we want to utilize risk pooling by having a centralized warehouse? Does having a centralized warehouse even give us benefit? So this was just a real quick lecture on distribution strategies. So I hope this helps. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions whatsoever. Have a great day.